Hello, this is Matthias Müll from marmoworld.com, and in this tutorial I want to show you the difference between the free and the pro version of our tool EasyBounce for After Effects. So here we have both of them open in the user interface, and you can see they look quite different. The pro version has all these extra parameters here, whereas the free version has just those 3 buttons. But the workflow is actually the same for both. So you first roughly keyframe a motion path, and then you click the EasyBounce button. Either this one in Pro or this one in Free. And this will replace your roughly keyframe motion by a much better looking, physically accurate one. The first big difference is that with the Pro version, you can also bounce off walls. So let's modify our motion path like that and run EasyBounce Pro. Looks great. If you undo and run the free version instead, I get this warning that bouncing off walls is not supported, and the wall bounce is simply removed from the motion path. Another great feature of the Pro version is that it can squash your layer when it hits the ground. Just make sure the Add Squash option here is enabled, and now if you apply EasyBounce Pro, you can see here where the layer hits the ground, it gets squashed. EasyBounce is quite smart in that the squashing automatically gets less for those slower impacts here. You can also fine-tune the squashing with these parameters over there. Another great parameter that is only available in EasyBounce Pro is the gravity control. Let's lower the gravity, and if we apply EasyBounce again, we can see that it moves much slower now, as if it would bounce on the moon, for example. So with Pro, you have this extra bit of control. The biggest not so obvious difference between Free and Pro is that the Free version only processes your position keyframes, whereas the Pro version also moves along all other keyframes you have on the layer. So I added here a few rotation keys, and now let's also change the motion path a bit, and maybe we also increase the gravity a bit again. If we run EasyBounce now, of course this will move all position keyframes in time. But on top of that, EasyBounce Pro now also moves the rotation keyframes to stay in sync with the animation. And this will not only work for rotation, but also for any other keyframes you might have on the layer. Last but not least, there are these 3 options here in the Pro version. So the first one is subframe accuracy. And if I enable it and run EasyBounce and zoom in here very closely, you can see that the keyframes are now actually in between frames. So usually I think this is not really necessary, but if your animation should be physically very accurate, you have this option in the Pro version. The work area only option will only process your keyframes inside the work area, which is very useful if only a part of your animation is a bounce and you want EasyBounce to only process this part and leave everything else untouched. Finally, the correct apex location gives you more control over the highest point of each bounce. By default, EasyBounce moves this apex left or right to look good. So you can see if I move it over and run EasyBounce again, it moves it back. But in the unlikely case that you don't want that and want to force the apex to be at a specific point, you can disable this correction. You can see it really does not look that good, so usually I highly recommend to keep this option enabled, but in the rare case where you need full control, the Pro version gives it to you. Now let's quickly take a look at those extra buttons of the free version. You can click the Pro version button if you want to upgrade to the Pro version. And the free ebook button just brings you to the web page where you can download our free ebook Motion Graphics in After Effects that speaks to your brain. So these were the differences between the free and the Pro version of EasyBounce. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'm sure you will have even more fun when you start playing with EasyBounce yourself.